The City of Phoenix holds community budget hearings throughout April, allowing residents to comment and make suggestions on the city manager's trial budget before final decisions are made. This public discussion is among the reasons the city's budget so closely matches the community's highest priorities each fiscal year.
Thank you all for coming out for the citywide bilingual budget hearing. We've done this now for a few years at least. And Maryvale is a very special place for a lot of us. For me personally, I will tell you, I'm a Maryvale kid, raised my family in the Maryvale district, Maryvale community, and I'm honored to be joined by my colleagues. I have one sitting behind me, Michael Nowakowski, District 7, that is part of Maryvale and just south of this area. This happens to be District 5. And also, joining us soon, we'll have Vice Mayor Laura Pastor, the other council member that whose district touches Maryvale. We also have Yana Janovich, who's here, Deputy City Manager, and I know that we have several other city staff here. So can we just indulge me, because it's a thankless job many times. I see we have police officers here, we have people, we have our budget director here, we have so many others from city staff. Can we just give them a round of applause for all the hard work? I appreciate it. Now, before I give the microphone over to my colleague, again, this is a bilingual budget hearing. We do have Mrs. Torres here, our translator. So if anyone needs a headset, if you can just raise your hand. And Ms. Torres, if you can, we have Mia Sanchez, who's with my office, who's also in the back, who's helped with translation as well. We'll see the video. I believe the video is about 9 minutes, correct? And we're going to watch it's the same video, but we'll watch the first one in Spanish, followed by the same video in English, so that we're all on the same page, and then we will take speakers cards. In the back, feel free to submit a card. You can fill out a card, and this is your opportunity to tell us how you want your tax dollars, our tax dollars, to be spent. And I know the Maryvale community has been very, very good about that. We now have our city manager, Ed Zerker, here, so this is great. You're going to have all three council members who touch Maryvale plus the city manager, which has been the case in years past as well, so that's great. Now, something that I hope would be advocated for, and I talked with the city manager just today to share my thoughts on the current budget. There are a lot of things that I care very much about. I see my good friend Joseph Benesh here with the arts community, and there are so many things that I truly care about. A couple things that I think we really got to get a handle on is the hiring of more police officers and trying to figure out this homeless issue and working closer with our partners and trying to figure that out. Now, obviously, everything matters. Everything is incredibly important, but this is your opportunity to tell us what you think we need more of or less of. Because at the end of the day, we're going to pass a budget, and that's what we will go off of for the next fiscal year, okay? So again, thank you for spending the time here with us. You could be anywhere on this Tuesday evening, and you're here on behalf of yourselves, your family, of course, our neighbors and our city. So thank you for doing that. I'll go ahead and give the microphone now to Councilman Nowakowski.
All right. Thank you, Daniel. Pues, bienvenidos todos. Welcome everyone for coming out. Te queremos dar las gracias porque es tan importante que escuchamos de ustedes las necesidades de nuestra comunidad. It's so important to listen to the needs of our community, and it's so important to have you here so we can hear those needs. So, una vez más, gracias por venir. Aquí estamos para escuchar a ustedes, no hablar, ¿no? So, entonces vamos a dejarlos hablar, ¿no? So we're here to listen to you all. So we're going to give up the mic and allow you guys to have the floor, and we'll just listen to all the different concerns that you have right after the videos. Thank you for coming out. Gracias por venir.
Now, just one more reminder, we do have speaker cards in the back because we want everyone to have an opportunity to speak who would like to speak. Everyone will have 3 minutes. And also we have this budget hearing, just like all of the budget hearings here at the City of Phoenix, It's being recorded. It'll be archived on our website. So it's something that you can ask your friends and family to, check out. And, many people obviously can't be here, work schedules, family schedules, whatever the case might be. Feel free to send your request to the City of Phoenix or to your respective council member. Thank you. Go ahead, Rod.
Hola a todos, bienvenidos al primer vistazo al presupuesto de prueba 2017-2018 de la Municipalidad de Phoenix. La municipalidad quiere conocer su opinión. Sus ideas ayudan a armar el presupuesto de cada año. El presupuesto definitivo es el plan de la municipalidad para gastar el dinero de los contribuyentes en servicios claves que quiere y necesita, como policía, bomberos, transporte público, parques y albercas municipales, bibliotecas, jóvenes y educación, prevención de graffiti, arte y cultura y ayuda para adultos mayores y para saber cómo podría verse afectados. El presupuesto de la Municipalidad de Phoenix para 2017-2018 está equilibrado como lo exige la ley estatal y la Carta Orgánica de la ciudad. En este presupuesto de prueba, la municipalidad conserva los servicios que nuestros residentes aprecian. El presupuesto del Fondo General de $1,200 millones, hay un pequeño superávit de $1.9 millones. Este video presentará propuestas para el uso de estos fondos. Así es como se divide el presupuesto de la municipalidad. Hay tres fuentes: el Fondo General, fondos de empresas y fondos de ingresos especiales. Empecemos por el Fondo General. 3/4 del Fondo General van a la policía, los bomberos, los tribunales y el 25% restante va a todo lo demás como bibliotecas, parques, adultos mayores, artes y funciones administrativas y de apoyo. Los departamentos de fondos de empresas incluyen aviación, servicios de agua, servicios de residuos sólidos y el centro de convenciones. Los fondos de ingresos especiales provienen en su mayoría de impuestos específicos que se deben usar para un fin específico. La iniciativa para parques y reservas de Phoenix, también llamada 3PI o Transportation 2050, que es para transporte público, el tren ligero y las calles. Bajo el fuerte liderazgo del alcalde y el consejo municipal, nos alegra poder decir que el presupuesto está equilibrado. Los empleados de Phoenix se esmeran a diario para trabajar mejor, ahorrar dinero y atender a nuestros clientes. Esto incluye tomar decisiones financieras acertadas, como mantener la calificación crediticia sólida, gastar en la medida de las posibilidades y conseguir ahorros para usarlos en importantes servicios para la comunidad. Las siguientes son las recomendaciones para adiciones al presupuesto para el próximo año fiscal. En el Fondo General hay menos de $2 millones extra, más algunas oportunidades para usar los fondos de otra forma para agregar servicios. En primer lugar, añadir 16 asistentes civiles de policías se encargarán de algunas tareas administrativas, liberando a los oficiales para que ellos puedan responder a más llamadas de emergencia. Entonces, añadir asistentes de policías a nuestro plantel actual servirá para varios objetivos. Regresará a los primeros en responder a atender más rápido esas llamadas de servicio prioritarias y aumentará nuestra prestación de servicios a nuestra comunidad. Luego, concentrarse en los desposeídos de nuestra ciudad. El plan es crear más equipos para atención de desposeídos a través de la eliminación de 6 puestos vacantes en el Departamento de Servicios Sociales. Esto liberaría alrededor de 500,000 para enviar a nuestros equipos de trabajadores a asistir a los residentes desposeídos en las calles para conectarlos con servicios y un refugio. Estos servicios son fundamentales para la ciudad. Estos profesionales trabajan codo a codo con nuestros socios de la comunidad, vecindarios y nuestra policía para que estos servicios realmente importantes lleguen a una población muy vulnerable. Para la biblioteca hay 2 recomendaciones: ahorros de contratos para hacer permanente la seguridad en la biblioteca Burton Bar, y la otra es crear más oportunidades para participación de niños en programas educativos. Esto nos deja alrededor de 1/3 del superávit sin tocar. El presupuesto propuesto requiere que se reserven estratégicamente estos fondos, 641,000 en un fondo para eventualidades. La idea es compensar un déficit potencial en el presupuesto 2018-2019 previsto con el pronóstico para 5 años de la municipalidad. Volviendo a las propuestas para el presupuesto 2017-2018, veamos ahora las propuestas para los fondos de empresas. Estos servicios están financiados por las tarifas de los usuarios, salvo con el Centro de Convenciones de Phoenix. El presupuesto requiere tener un nuevo centro para operaciones de emergencia y una ambulancia en el Aeropuerto Internacional Sky Harbor. De esta forma, se garantizaría que cualquiera en el aeropuerto que necesite de atención médica podrá llegar rápido al hospital desde Sky Harbor. Siguiente. Los fondos de residuos sólidos pagan por la recolección de basura y los servicios de reciclado. Se propone añadir 8 puestos para mejorar la seguridad de los trabajadores y aumentar las recolecciones. Esto ayudará a la campaña Reimagine Phoenix. Esto apoyará la meta del alcalde y del consejo de separar el 40% de lo que termina en nuestros vertederos para el año 2020 a través de reciclado, compostaje y educación. Pasemos a otros fondos restringidos que están dedicados a servicios específicos. El fondo de la Iniciativa para Parques y Reservas de Phoenix proviene de un impuesto de 1/10 de centavo para nuestro mundialmente reconocido sistema de parques. Para apoyar el uso seguro de nuestro sistema de parques y reservas y la seguridad pública, el presupuesto de prueba añade 22 nuevos guardaparques. Esto extendería el horario en las entradas de los senderos y proveería apoyo adicional en parques llanos de toda la ciudad. Con más guardaparques podemos extender 2 horas el horario en lugares específicos para que en lugar de hacer senderismo en las horas de más calor, se puedan usar hasta un poco más tarde. Se puede llegar hasta la entrada en carro y seguir la caminata en el atardecer cuando está un poco más fresco. 13 de los nuevos guardaparques serían asignados a los lugares con más visitantes de la ciudad, que incluyen North Mountain, Payasua Peak, South Mountain y otras entradas de senderos como Echo Canyon, Shoya y Lookout Mountain. Los otros 9 serían asignados a parques llanos. Los guardaparques adicionales en nuestros parques proveerían un nivel extra de atención al cliente que en la actualidad no tenemos y proveerá una oportunidad para que las personas reciban educación o aprendan más sobre lo que está pasando en los parques y para proveer ese nivel extra de mejor atención al cliente. Además, estarían incluidos fondos para mantener 2 nuevos parques para perros, uno en Ridge 11 y el otro en Deer Valley Park. De los fondos de Transportation 2050, el presupuesto de prueba requiere la ampliación del servicio de algunas de las rutas más ajetreadas por toda la ciudad. También aumentaría la frecuencia al mediodía durante la semana en rutas que atienden a Thomas y Camelback. Y del Fondo de Servicios de Desarrollo, la propuesta es añadir varios puestos para adaptarse al aumento de permisos de construcción e inspecciones debido al crecimiento económico, mayor comunicación y nuestros continuos esfuerzos por tener procesos dinámicos. Una última actualización importante es la contratación de más oficiales de policía y bomberos. La municipalidad está bien encaminada hacia su meta de reclutamiento de 3,125 policías y 1,615 bomberos. Este presupuesto del que estamos hablando ahora incluye la adición de alrededor de 250 oficiales el próximo año, acercándonos a nuestra meta sostenible. Por eso es importante para nosotros mantener al pueblo protegido y vivir dentro de nuestras posibilidades. En 2009, nuestros fondos para seguridad pública tuvieron un déficit significativo. Para evitar despidos y equilibrar el presupuesto, dejamos de contratar. Para el 2015, nos habíamos recuperado y hemos contratado policías y bomberos desde entonces. Mientras que los niveles de personal están en el departamento de policía, también están significantemente bajas las llamadas de servicio al departamento. En los últimos años, a medida que la población y las llamadas de servicio fueron aumentando, también tuvimos la suerte de volver a contratar oficiales. Por eso hemos estado reclutando en el estado y por mucho tiempo, pero ahora tenemos ese esfuerzo extra para salir del estado para reclutar. Una oportunidad maravillosa para aumentar las personas que encontramos y buscamos para ampliar nuestro plantel en el Departamento de Policía de Phoenix. Nos permite dar una respuesta segura y eficaz ante cualquier tipo de emergencia que se produzca en la ciudad, ya sea un ataque cardíaco, el incendio en una casa, de una estructura, un rescate en la montaña. Al contar con un plantel de 4 personas, se garantiza la respuesta adecuada y segura para adaptarnos a cualquier necesidad que surja. Recuerde que el presupuesto de este año todavía no ha sido adoptado. Su aporte es importante y la Municipalidad de Phoenix quiere saber su opinión sobre cómo debería ser el próximo presupuesto. En resumen, el presupuesto de prueba 2017-2018 requiere 16 nuevos asistentes de policías para liberar a los oficiales jurados de tareas administrativas, 22 guardaparques para poder abrir más horas algunas entradas a senderos durante los veranos, reutilizar recursos municipales para liberar dinero para ampliar las campañas para desposeídos de la ciudad. Repetimos que este es un presupuesto equilibrado con algo de dinero reservado como ventaja anticipada para uso futuro. Se realizarán 17 audiencias públicas este mes por todos los distritos del Consejo y lo invitamos fervientemente a asistir. Asegúrese de obtener un panfleto del presupuesto, el cual describe todas las propuestas y opciones en cualquiera de las asambleas públicas o por internet en phoenix.gov/budget. También puede enviar sus comentarios o preguntas a budget.research@phoenix.gov o comunicarse con nosotros por teléfono llamando al 602-262-4800. Puede hacer comentarios en las redes sociales usando #PhoenixBudget. Gracias por asistir a esta audiencia sobre el presupuesto y por participar en este proceso tan importante.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first look at the City of Phoenix 2017-18 trial budget. The City of Phoenix wants to hear from you. Your ideas can help shape the budget each year. The final budget provides the plan for how the city will spend taxpayer money on key services you want and need, like police, fire, transit, city parks and swimming pools, libraries, youth and education, graffiti prevention, arts and culture, and help for seniors, and how they all could be impacted. The 2017-18 Phoenix City budget is balanced as required by state law and city charter. In this trial budget, the city is preserving the services our residents value. Out of the $1.2 billion general fund budget, there is a small $1.9 million surplus. This video will present proposals on how to use these funds. So here's how the city's budget breaks down. There are 3 sources: the general fund, enterprise fund, and special revenue fund. Let's start with the general fund. 3/4 of the general fund is for police, fire, courts, with the remaining 25% going for everything else like libraries, parks, senior services, arts, and administrative and support functions. Enterprise fund departments include aviation, water services, solid waste services, and the convention center. Special revenue funds come mostly from dedicated taxes that must be used for a specific purpose. For example, the Phoenix Parks and Preserves Initiative, also called 3PI, or Transportation 2050. That funding goes for transit, light rail, and streets. Under the strong leadership of the mayor and city council, we are glad to say the budget is balanced. Phoenix employees strive every day to work smarter, save money, and serve our customers. That includes making sound financial decisions, like keeping our credit rating strong, spending within our means, and looking for savings to use for important community services. Now let's take a look at the recommendations for additions to the budget for next fiscal year. In the general fund, there is a little less than $2 million extra, plus some opportunities to use funds differently to add service. First, adding 16 civilian police assistants. They will take over some administrative duties, freeing up officers so the officers can respond to emergency calls.
So adding police assistance to our existing staffing resources is going to do a couple of things. It's going to get our first responders back on those priority calls for service faster and increase our service delivery to our community.
Next, focusing on homelessness in our city. The plan is to create more outreach teams by eliminating 6 vacant positions in the Human Services Department. This would free up about $500,000 to send teams of outreach workers to homeless residents on the street to connect them with services and a place for shelter.
These services are critical to the city. These professional outreach teams will work hand in hand with our community partners, neighborhoods, police, to bring these really important services to a very vulnerable population.
For the library, there are 2 recommendations. Contract savings would make security at Burton Bar Central Library permanent, and the other is to create more opportunities to engage kids in educational programs. Now, that leaves about 1/3 of the surplus untouched. So the proposed budget calls for strategically setting aside that funding, about $641,000, into a rainy day fund. The intent is to offset a potential deficit in the 2018-19 budget, which was projected in the city's 5-year forecast. Okay, time now to get back to the 2017-18 budget proposals. Let's look at the enterprise funds. These services are funded with user fees, with the exception of the Phoenix Convention Center. The budget calls for putting a new emergency operations center and ambulance at Sky Harbor International Airport. This would ensure that if anyone at the airport needs medical attention, they can get to the hospital quickly from Sky Harbor. Next, the Solid Waste Funds pays for our trash collection and recycling services. It's proposed to add 8 positions to enhance worker safety and increase collections. Perhaps you've heard of the Reimagine Phoenix campaign. This is all part of support for the goal from mayor and council to divert 40% of what ends up in our landfills by the year 2020 through recycling, composting, and education. Okay, now to other restricted funds, which are dedicated to specific services. The Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative Fund comes from a 1/10 cent tax to support our world-renowned parks system. To support safe use of our parks and preserve system and public safety, the trial budget would add 22 new park rangers. This would extend trailhead hours and provide additional support at flatland parks around the city.
By adding rangers, we can extend the park hours at specific locations by 2 additional hours, which means that instead of hiking in the heat of the day, you can hike a little bit later. You can drive actually into the trailhead and continue your hiking later into the evening while it's still a little bit cooler.
13 of the new park rangers would be assigned to the city's more heavily visited locations, including North Mountain, Piestewa Peak, South Mountain, and other trailheads like Echo Canyon, Cholla, and Lookout Mountain. The other 9 would be assigned to flatland parks.
Additional rangers in our community and flatland parks provide that extra layer of customer service that we currently don't have, and it'll provide an opportunity for people to get education or learn more about what's going on in the parks and just provide that extra layer of enhanced customer service.
Also included would be funding to maintain 2 new dog parks, one at Reach 11 and the other at Deer Valley Park. From the Transportation 2050 funds, the budget calls for expanding service on some of the busiest routes around the city. It would also increase weekday midday frequency on routes serving Thomas and Camelback roads. And from the Development Services Fund, the proposal is to add several positions to keep up with increased building permits and inspections due to economic growth. Also, to increase and enhance communication and continue our efforts to streamline processes. One last important update is on the hiring of more police officers and firefighters. The city is on target to meet its recruiting goals of 3,125 officers and 1,615 firefighters.
This budget that we're talking about now includes the addition of roughly 250 officers next year, getting us to our sustainable goal.
So it's important for us to keep the public safe and live within our means. In 2009, our public safety funds were significantly in a deficit. To avoid layoffs and to balance the budget, we stopped hiring. By 2015, we were back, and we've been hiring police officers and firefighters since then.
While we're down from our peak level of staffing in the police department, we're also significantly down in our calls for service to the department. Over the last few years, as population and calls for service have increased, we're also fortunate to return to hiring officers.
So we've been recruiting in-state for a long time, but now we have that extra effort to be able to go out of state to recruit. What an amazing opportunity to increase the number of people that we find and can look for to build our staffing here in the Phoenix Police Department.
It allows a safe, effective response to whatever emergency is happening in the city of Phoenix. So whether it's a heart attack, if it's a house fire, structure fire, if it's a mountain rescue, is that by having 4-person staffing, it ensures adequate, safe response to meet whatever needs we encounter.
Now keep in mind, this year's budget hasn't been adopted just yet. Your input is important, and the City of Phoenix wants to hear from you on what the upcoming budget should look like. So to recap, a few highlights. The 2017-18 trial budget calls for 16 new police assistants to free up sworn officers from administrative work, 22 park rangers, which would allow some trailheads to be open longer during the summer, and reutilizing city resources to expand the city's homeless outreach. Again, this is a balanced budget with some money set aside as a head start for future use. 17 public hearings will take place this month across all council districts, and you are encouraged to attend. Make sure you pick up a budget pamphlet outlining all the proposals and options at any of the public meeting or online at phoenix.gov/budget. You can also send your comments or questions to budget.research@phoenix.gov, or to reach us by phone, please call 602-262-4800. You can also comment on social media by using #PhoenixBudget. Thank you for your interest in the City of Phoenix budget and being a part of the budget process.
Can we get the lights, please? Ed, would you like to join us? You good? Okay. Oh, we have Deanna here. Ed's just going to give it to you, Deanna. We do have Deanna. Deanna, would you like to join us? Are you good there? Okay. And Jeff, thank you very much for being here. Jeff Barton, our budget director. Now, we have seven cards. And you do have an opportunity, again, to fill out a speaker's card. It was mentioned in the video, but I want to reiterate that the city manager brings a proposed budget to the council, and we take a look at it. It gets rolled out to the public, which that's what we're doing now. The city manager makes some adjustments based on public input, which I think every one of us really appreciate. And at the end of the day, we will vote on a budget. But if you have spoken in years past, what I'm really proud of is that every time we pass a budget, it is a little bit different than what that proposed budget is, which I think is evidence that we are governing based on public input and based on your input. So thank you again for being here. The first speaker is Jesus Calaviz. Come on up, sir.
Hola a todos, gracias por estar aquí el día de hoy. Nosotros somos el Consejo Juvenil de Arte y Cultura para la ciudad de Phoenix.
Estamos aquí con esta presentación para expresar nuestro apoyo e interés en las bellas artes.
Why does creativity matter?
Why does culture matter? Why do young people matter?
We are the Youth Arts and Culture Council for the City of Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture.
I am a storyteller. I am the future.
I am a believer.
I am art. I am dramatic. I am an actress.
I am a violinist. And I am Jesus.
We are young artists and arts advocates from all disciplines.
who advocate for access to arts and culture for young people.
In all communities of Phoenix.
We believe in diversity,
Youth representation. Community. Democracy.
Conversation.
Opportunity.
Access.
How do the arts serve me?
The arts serve me by giving me an outlet for expression.
The arts expand my horizons as a growing adult.
The arts serve me by giving me a sense of purpose and community.
How do I serve my community through the arts?
I serve my community by offering my unique perspective in hopes to connect to and relate to others.
I encourage people to expand their global citizenship and have apt moral value.
I create intensely beautiful conversations with people from all different backgrounds and philosophies. Why do the arts matter?
The arts matter to me because they give me the power to create positive change in people. I'm a violin volunteer teacher with the Harmony Project, and I have an 8-year-old student who's a shy little girl when I first met her. However, after a year worth of lessons, I've been able to see this girl develop into a confident person as well as a confident artist. This is why the arts matter to me, because they give me the power to create positive change.
The arts are important to me because of their incredible capacity to bring people together. My high school drama club, for instance, has been like a second family for me and a major source of support throughout my high school experience. It's a place where kids from all different backgrounds and circumstances come together and put their time and effort and talents towards the creation of something beautiful, not only through the productions that we put on, but through the network of support and positivity that we create together. I've seen firsthand how participation in arts programs can change lives for the better, and it's truly a beautiful thing.
Your investments in the arts will be returned. The benefits to the community are greater than dollars and cents.
The arts create a vibrant community, a more connected community.
How are you serving the community, the arts, and young people? Thank you.
Vice Mayor Pastor just got here just in time for that presentation.
Bravo, brilliant. That is like, I am so impressed by you. The fact that you could bring arts alive at a budget hearing and all of us could connect in many different ways. I am just, you give me great hope for our future. And so bravo to you for doing that.
All right, we'll go to the next speaker, Ms. Barb Heller.
My name's Barb Heller. We are the 6th largest city in the United States, 10th largest in the landmass of 530 square miles. The average of the 10 largest cities in the U.S. is 2.5 full-time officers per 1,000 residents. According to the International Association of Chiefs of Police, we should have 4,000 sworn full-time officers. So our true numbers of officers short is 1,300 plus the 100 we will lose to drop this year. 400 more than last year. How many more will we lose because they can't handle it anymore? Calls for service in reality are only down about 51,000. From the businesses and residents that I talk to, it's because they've stopped calling. Our law enforcement are hurting, their families are hurting, and that means we are hurting. Instead of paying 16 blue shirts, why not ask the PNP volunteers if they'd assist? Most of us would gladly assist in helping. I am now letting you all know that I and others are looking into bringing a citizens' initiative to the ballot to force you into coming up to the recommended 2.5 full-time officers. We will take our streets back. Our neighborhoods are being filled up with meth houses, and we're tired of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heller. The next speaker, Harold Hurt.
Good evening, and thank you. I think I know a couple of the people sitting in the audience, a couple of officers. I served as police chief here for a few years, many years ago. But I'm here today because a couple of my friends came to some of these budget meetings. And they said, well, you're back in town now. You've been back for a little over a year. People need to hear from you and what you think that we should be doing in the city. Of course, I'm going to be in favor of hiring more police officers. But at the same time, there are other avenues besides hiring bodies, is to take advantage of technology that is out there today. Take advantage of some other sources of human resources, such as, I'll give you an example. I worked for Homeland Security Department for about 5 years, and I was recently retired and came back here. And one of the things they did, they was working child predator cases. So they went to the Veterans Administration and hired disabled vets to work the computers to track these individuals, not only in the U.S., but all over the world. And the number of prosecutions that came up after they used those veterans to track and bring those people to court was tremendous. So today, we just can't keep spending money. We gotta think more. We gotta reach out more, try new things, be more involved with the community to make sure that we have the support of all our people in our community. And thanks to Chief Williams, I have a meeting tomorrow with one of the members of our staff, and I'm going to make some recommendations to him, reference some of the things that we tried in different cities that are very successful. And some of them do not cost money. Matter of fact, a couple of them increase revenue at no cost to the city or the police department. So those are the kind of things that we need to think of, because just like our bank accounts, they're only so large. And even though you keep working, you keep putting in, things keep coming up, new challenges come, and you keep spending money. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. Like I said, tomorrow I will be speaking to members of the police department and sharing some ideas. And I know the city manager when he came on as an assistant many years ago, and grew up in the city as most of us did. And I love Phoenix. I had an opportunity to live in California, in Houston, in Washington, D.C. But when it's time to come home, I came to Phoenix because I felt I had dedicated a lot of time here in the military as well as on the police department. And I just didn't come back to retire. I want to come back and make a contribution. So thank you for your time, and thank you for all the good work that you're doing in the city.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, for your service and for continuing to contribute. Ms. Jenny Ann Sumner.
Good evening, and thank you, excuse me, for the opportunity. You know, I understand that public safety is the largest part of the budget, and I don't have a problem with that. Public safety should be our primary concern. Everything else is quality of life decisions that we need to make. If the number of police officers we're hiring is limited by this budget, and we're facing a deficit next year, shouldn't we be seeking funding sources now and maybe reviewing the current and projected needs by each department today? I would like to see the public more involved in the beginning, rather than being handed a budget a month before it is approved. I don't want to, and honestly, I don't want to have to go through another year like we have in the past with some of the budget hearings, with seniors and children and special interest groups, all having to attend every budget hearing and begging for support for their programs. I was there right along with everyone else, I admit that. But I think we can do better, and I hope we plan to do better in the next budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sumner, for all of your service. I'd like to invite Mr. Craig Tripkin, former council member. Councilman Tripkin, good to see you.
Excuse me. Thank you, council members and city manager and deputy city manager. I appreciate the chance to speak. I'm here to speak on behalf of homelessness and Central Arizona Shelter Services specifically. CAS, Central Arizona Shelter Services, has two very dire needs that I'd like to speak to very quickly. One is we're facing a $200,000 operating budget deficit this year, and that includes a 30% increase in our private fundraising. So there's a great deal of leverage going on in that budget, but that is simply a dire problem that we have. Secondly, I'd like to speak to the need for more caseworkers. I think the outreach program is a very good idea. Our eyes tell us the point in time count, which is going to come out of MAG soon, is going to tell us that there's a 79% or so increase in street homelessness. And our eyes are telling us all that. I think all over the city, people and all the city council districts are saying the same thing. If that program is going to be successful, we need to figure out a way to free up beds on the Human Services campus at Cass. We're going to do that. Our caseworker ratio right now is 50 to 1. We're going to do that by improving our caseworker ratio. The national standard is 30 to 1. I've got some data here which shows that the more casework a person gets, the shorter their stay. Now, ironically, they get more casework if they are in fact more problematic, have greater problems. They get more casework, and yet they are our shortest stayers. And the people who get no casework, 10% of our people take up 40% of our nights. And that 10% of people are the least problematic. 45% of them have income of one sort or otherwise, job, SSDI, SSI, they have income. So 10% of our people are taking up 40% of our bed nights. So we can free up beds by having better casework. There's a housing component to that too, which I won't go into, but we can do that. I'm sorry, I need to check my notes because I don't have it all always memorized. I'm going to use up my 3 minutes if I'm not careful. Okay, so the length of stay goes down the more caseworkers we have. There's some talk that has been had, and I approach this very carefully, about possibly expanding beds on campus. If that idea comes to fruition, I just want to emphasize that that's going to bring even a greater need of casework. We see 200 new people every month at Central Arizona Shelter Services, 200 people. We're full. If the outreach program is successful and it brings in people and takes people off the street, and I think it has every reason, there's every reason to believe that it will, not only do we have to free up beds, but we have to get people out faster. And that's just plain and simple the fact. So I guess I applaud the outreach program. I think that we can't ignore the importance of ongoing services that are a function of shortening stays at Cass and freeing up bed nights on either the campus or Cass. Thank you. Go ahead. I get a question.
Councilman Cherukuri,
I can filibuster.
when you speak of caseworkers, do you work with the city and the caseworkers at the city, or are you speaking specifically caseworkers at Cass?
I'm speaking specifically in-house caseworkers at Cass.
Okay.
We have people, and we have a large dormitory, as you've no doubt seen, and we have caseworkers in that dormitory, so they develop almost a familial relationship with the clients. Somebody's spinning out, they see it, and the person's right down the hallway, and they can interact, and there's a constant interaction.
Now, does Cass work with the caseworkers in the city of Phoenix?
We have a close relationship. The city of Phoenix is our best partner by somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 miles. I mean, I don't mean that geographically, although that's true also. But we have an ongoing relationship with them, with some of the housing people and that sort of thing. But in terms of actually passing off caseworkers or clients back and forth, I can't tell you whether that occurs a lot, or not. I think most of that's probably within the housing context of Section 8 vouchers or rapid rehousing money or something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, Mr. Joseph Benish. And we have one speaker after Joseph, so if you'd like to get your card in, please do so. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you, council members, thank you, city managers. Joseph Benish, I'm with the Phoenix Center for the Arts and the Office of Arts and Culture. And I want to talk just real briefly about how the arts impact us in so many different ways. Sometimes it's problematic for the arts because sometimes we seem really big with our opera and our symphony, but sometimes we're around in much more subtle ways that are often overlooked. And we had a really good example, which I'll talk about here in a minute with these kids. So first, the arts in the bigger way are an attractive amenity to a city. We know that CEOs look for places like this to bring jobs. We also create jobs. At Phoenix Center for the Arts, we have about 10 staff, and we work with about 75 artists annually on a regular basis, about a third of those on almost a full-time basis. So there's that. The other part that the arts really contribute is public safety. When you look at all of the arts programs that serve kids, including Phoenix Center for the Arts, when we give out scholarships, we have the Teen Artists Guild, these are organizations that are keeping kids busy, that are keeping kids off the street. And again, I'll get to that one in a second. So the arts really contribute to public safety, and I agree that we need a strong infrastructure for that, because I have a couple of good friends who are officers, and I respect what they do very much. And then the last thing I want to talk about, putting my Phoenix Office of Arts and Culture hat on, is that the money that the city spends at POAC, for short, is extremely well spent. I've sat on that commission now for 4 years. You have some of the most creative minds and strategic minds that I've ever met. So the money that's being managed there through the grants program not only goes to organizations that put a lot of time and effort into spending that money well, they also are sharing with other organizations. Phoenix allows organizations like us, the Center for the Arts, to be fiscal agents for smaller groups, so that money is getting down into local and neighborhood groups. They have a new neighborhood grant program, so it's going directly to neighborhood organizations who are partnering with arts and cultural organizations. And then you have people like Dwight, who I see sitting back there, who's great. Is that, oh, that's not Dwight. You look like Dwight, sir. He's a good guy. But you have people like Ashley Hare, who has one of the most innovative programs in the country, spending her staff time recruiting kids from all over the valley who are now not only, again, being kind of kept off the street, they're being kept busy, but they are engaging in this civic conversation, you know, right when they're in high school, right when they're making some decisions about the future. So I can't imagine any better way for us to spend our time than really engaging these kids in this conversation, in this civic conversation about the impossible job that you all have in trying to keep all 3 million of us happy, or however many there are. So, thank you for supporting the arts as you have in the future. We can always use more, and if we get more, we will use it very, very well, as you saw with these kids up here who are in high school and ready to engage and be the future leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
Well said, Joseph. Thank you. In full disclosure, Joseph and I were both in Valley Leadership 35. It's the greatest class of all time. And I served on his board for a little more than a year. So well said. Thank you. Our last speaker, and it's not too late to get your card in. Our last speaker, Ms. Rosa Pastrana, one of the strongest community advocates that we have in the city. And she's a Spanish speaker. And so we'll have Ms. Torres accompany her here for translation.
No, así las dos. ¿Así está bien? ¿Se oye? Sí. Okay. Bueno, mi nombre es Rosa Pastrana. Yo vengo del Distrito 4 de Laura Pastor.
My name is Rosa Pastrana. I come from District 4, from Laura Pastor.
Bueno, yo creo que en Phoenix hay mucha necesidad de muchas cosas.
I think we have a lot of needs in Phoenix, of very different things.
Y estos 6 años que yo tengo haciendo cosas para la comunidad.
And in the 6 years that I've been doing things for the community,
me he fijado que sí faltan cosas, pero hay una que es una cosa muy tradicional mexicana, hispana.
And there's something that is missing, and it's something that is something very traditional, Hispanic, Mexican.
y que ahorita se está haciendo muy popular ya,
and right now it's becoming very popular,
que viene siendo la lucha libre.
and it's the lucha libre wrestling.
Ajá. Y hay muchos luchadores ya aquí en Phoenix
There are a lot of wrestlers already here in Phoenix
que no tienen, están haciendo luchas, pero no tienen un espacio donde entrenar.
that they're having their wrestling fights, but they don't have a space where to train.
Y para entrenar lucha libre se necesita tener un lugar cerrado.
And to train for this kind of wrestling, lucha libre, you need a closed-in space.
Porque ellos son, es un misterio porque son una máscara y nadie los debe de conocer afuera.
Because it's a mystery, they wear a mask, and no one is supposed to know them from outside.
Entonces, yo estoy con la lucha libre desde hace 5 años.
So I've been working for this wrestling or lucha libre for 5 years.
Y he mirado que a muchas familias, niños, jóvenes, de cualquier edad les gusta mucho ese deporte, entretenimiento. Porque
And I have seen a lot of families, kids, young kids, that they like that kind of entertainment. It's a sport because it is a sport.
Entonces, lo que yo estoy queriendo decir es de que yo creo que sí se enfocan mucho lo que son los parques.
So what I'm trying to say is that yes, you are very focused on parks,
Lo que son cosas de música,
things about music,
o finizan, basquetbol, fútbol.
or basketball or football.
Pero la lucha libre, que es algo tan tradicional que ya hay, no le están dando el apoyo.
So lucha libre is something very traditional and it's not getting that support.
Entonces yo les pido de favor que si hubiera algunos fondos, algún espacio que nos pudieran ayudar
So
para poder
I ask you as a favor, if there's some funds, either if you're able to help us,
para seguir haciendo este entretenimiento que es para las familias, y
to be able to continue with this sort of entertainment for families.
yo nada más busco ese soporte para ese entretenimiento también.
And I'm just looking for support for that sort of entertainment.
Quisiera pedir más cosas, pero ya muchos ya las pidieron, pero lo que menos piden es eso.
I like to ask for many things, but a lot of them have already asked for them. So, but what I'm asking is that.
Es todo.
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pastrana. That concludes our speakers. Just checking in the back, we don't have any other cards, correct? Okay, just for closing comments, I'll go ahead and first pass it over to, we'll go with Councilman Nowakowski and then the Vice Mayor.
Test. Well, first of all, just thank you for coming out again. We heard you loud and clear when it came to providing more resources to our arts program, and it was a great demonstration from our young people how arts really have an impact on our young people and how it really attracts businesses to the city of Phoenix. We also heard the need of more police officers. We heard you loud and clear that we should have 2.5 per 1,000 police officers, and we're a little bit short, so we need at least 4,000 or so, and that there might be a future initiative to put that on the ballot. And we heard from our past chief that we need to really use some of our veterans that have some expertise that can help us out with the law enforcement, and also individuals that are out there that are willing to help out. There's a lot of resources out there that won't cost the city any money, but on their contrary, they can turn around and make some revenue for us. We also heard how important it is to, with the homeless situation that we're in right now, and that we're about $200,000 short, and that we need some more caseworkers to really prevent homelessness. We need to really help and get to the core issues, and it's through the caseworkers that we can really make that happen. We also heard from Rosa that it was so important to actually keep cultural events alive, and Lucha Libre is one of those that they need a space where they can actually practice, and that she's been doing it for the last 6 years, and ever since she was 5 years old, she's been a part of this. So quiero dar los gracias a usted, Rosa, por todo que haces para nuestra comunidad y todo que haces para nuestros hijos, y Lucha Libre es algo importante, y vamos a hacer la lucha a buscarte un lugar, y gracias por venir. Thank you.
So thank you for being here. I just also want to point out that One of the items that was mentioned is a different way of looking at the budget and having more of a citizen voice in the budget. I think that's important. I just think that all the items that came in front of us are very important and impact us in many different ways. And to me, our environment, when there's a vibrant environment, it's a safe environment. Children are playing, parents are watching one another, or watching the neighborhood, and there are activities for everybody within our community. So I believe we can really build that environment. It's just a matter of how and really what we want to look at and focus. Definitely heard that the arts is very important within our community, and there's many ways that we can embed the arts within our community. But what really had me focused today, Chief Hurt, was the fact of using technology and modernizing our systems and modernizing in a way where it doesn't necessarily take a lot of manpower, and it's not going to cost money. And so I think that's a very innovative way to look at how we police for the future. So thank you for that idea, because I think you've probably experienced it and bring it to us. So thank you for that. Really appreciate everybody being a part of this. It's very important, and hopefully we will see you. We have one more, I think, tomorrow. I think one more is left. 3 more? Well, one more for me. And what I mean by that is I've had 5. And I just want to let you know, Class 30 of Valley Leadership elected a councilwoman.
The second best class ever.
First best class, elected a councilwoman, and also elected a congressman. So top that one.
It's early, Laura. It's early. Joseph's running for president soon, so. Again, I want to thank you all for coming out to the Maryville Community Center. It's a special place. This is the heart of Maryville. It's a great place. Some who spoke are from Maryville. Some who spoke aren't, and I think that's awesome, because it gives people a chance to come out and see what this community is truly about. It's a service-oriented community, and many of us do become firefighters and police officers and school teachers and artists and people who want to give back. I'll be remiss if I just didn't mention for a quick moment that Maryville was home to our current police and fire chief. Both are Maryville kids, and their predecessors are also Maryville kids, and it's something that I'm personally very proud of. I want to thank our city staff for being here. We do have our city manager who's in the audience, but the person running the show tonight is our deputy city manager. I want to thank our budget director and everyone else for being here as well. At the end of the day, what I will always continue to advocate for, and I think it's covered in all of these cards, is keeping people safe, moving our economy forward, and strengthening our neighborhoods. And I think in some way, shape, or form, that's what people spoke of today. The arts is an absolute economic development tool, as far as I'm concerned. It's about keeping people safe, moving our economy forward, and strengthening our neighborhoods. And thank you for speaking up. You'll be able to see at the end of these budget hearings, at the end of these, the last 3, then the city manager and his team, Deanna Jonovich and others will get together and propose a budget to the council with all of our input as well. And we hope to adopt a budget that will make you proud, that will make you feel like you've been heard, and it will be a budget at the end of the day with your fingerprints on it, and that's our goal. So thank you for coming out. Drive safely, and God bless.
I just want to address Ms. Summers. I forgot your comment that we need to look for a solution before next year, because we don't want to have a bunch of seniors and youth and art advocates and others that we're going to be cutting their programs. So I think it's really important that my colleagues and we really look at a solution for next year's budget before we go into a deficit. So thank you for bringing that up.
You have been watching a community budget hearing held recently in Phoenix. For questions, comments, or ideas, please visit phoenix.gov or call 602-262-4800. You can also send feedback through social media by using #PhoenixBudget. This video can also be seen online at phoenix.gov/PHXTV or youtube.com/City of Phoenix AZ.